What's up, you guys? Chet Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all with a very special vlog. As of the recording of this video, we are 1 week out from my book release, Ghosts and Mysteries of Bradley County, Tennessee. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited. This is the first self-published book I've ever done, and I really hope it does well. That is my main goal. I'm still editing it here and there. That's one of the good things about self-publishing via Kindle Direct Publishing, is up until about 3 days before the book is published, Kindle Direct Publishing, or aka Amazon, will allow you to edit your book. So what was originally supposed to be about 17 stories, it has come out to be, well, about 21. So tonight, you guys, I thought, just for this occasion, since we are about 1 week out from my book, my first ever self-published book, from being published, I figured, you know what, let's read a few stories. I figured I might read about 2 or 3. That way, there's still a bit of a surprise in my book. And one of the first ones that I'm going to start out with is actually a ghost story that is associated with my family. These events happened when my mother was a child, and when she was living she was living off of Dalton Pike in Bradley County. And anyway, her stories and the experiences that my grandparents and uncles had in this house is probably what ignited my passion in the paranormal, or what has made me so interested in it. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But anyway, I'll begin my a bit of a preview on my book and a couple of the stories. And that first story is Mr. Gates and His Antics. "It's that house right there," my mother pointed as we came home from an evening at my grandparents' house on Sandra Drive. The building was a one-story ranch-style home that sat at the end of a gravel dirt driveway overlooking the then double-laned Dalton Pike. A big oak tree kept the residents in the shade, while Christmas lights clung to the gutters. The remains of a wooden fence was to the side, although it looked as if it had seen better days. "That's where it happened," my mom said. That night, when I was 6 years old, I heard my family talk about the strange things that had taken place in the old house on Dalton Pike. My curiosity piqued as I asked my mother, Mama, and Papa while we were sitting in the family room. "Oh, that Mr. Gates was a strange one," my Mama said. "Who was Mr. Gates?" I asked. "Mr. Gates was our ghost," my mother replied. The home had been constructed in 1960 and my mother's family were the second group of people to live on the property. The previous owner had died in a car wreck while on his way to visit family in Florida. The accident had taken place along Dalton Pike, just a few miles away from where he lived. The realtor selling them the home couldn't remember the man's first name, but his last name was Gates. "Remember that time Mr. Gates left the ice cream out on the kitchen table while we were at church?" my mama laughed. "All of it was ruined." "I remember he would unlock the front door while we were out," my papa said. My papa always made sure the door was locked when they left the house to go to church or run errands. But more often than not, the front door to the house would be unlocked. "Mr. Gates freaked me out at that one time," my mother said. When she was 16, she went to her room to get something. As my mother reached to turn the doorknob to her room, the handle turned itself counterclockwise from the other side. My mother was the only one in the house at the time. My mama was outside in the utility room washing clothes. My mother screamed and ran outside and waited for my mama to go back inside with her. "I remember when he made the rocker move by itself," my papa exclaimed. When they lived in the house, my mother's family had an old rocking chair that sat in the living room. One night, while the rest of the family was asleep, my papa had just gotten off from work and was watching the news. As he sat there in the wooden chair, the wooden chair tipped. At first, my papa thought nothing of it. He sat there listening to what the reporter had to say about the events in Chattanooga from the following day. Slowly, the rocker began edging back and forth. That can't be, my papa thought. He averted his gaze back to the television. The rocking chair was gyrating at a gentle pace now, and my papa could no longer ignore it. The chair rocked back and forth for 5 minutes straight until it slowly came to a halt. At 32, I've never heard my uncles talk about their experiences in the old house on Dalton Pike. Although, from what I understand, Mr. Gates wasn't a malevolent man, but messing with the living was one of his favorite antics. And that's just some of the story, or that are just some of the things that I remember from when I first heard the stories of Mr. Gates. So, let's go to another one. Let's see which one we should go to. You know what? Let's talk about Walter, since we're on the topic of more ghost stories in the preview of my book. Walter. People have been entertained by the theater since the days of the Greek Empire over 2,000 years ago. And throughout the 2 millennia that have passed, the art of entertainment has evolved from an actor dressed as Caesar being warned of the Ides of March to the form of a Hollywood screen as superheroes save the world from a big purple villain. Bradley County got its first theater in 1878 with the construction of the Craig Miles Hall Cultural Center. In 1906, the notable artist John Philip Sousa performed The Diplomat to a sold-out audience. Cleveland, Tennessee has seen its share of the entertainment arts. And there is one theater in town which is haunted by a friendly ghost fondly named Walter. Bradley Central High School was built in 1974 and had been operating ever since. For over 50 years, the students have come and gone. Some as many as 4 generations have attended the public institution, beginning at its first location on Ocoee Street in the early 1900s. In that time, the school's theater has seen a multitude of students' plays and spring concerts. And grandparents who watch their children act on stage just like their parents did so long ago can't help but wonder if Walter has made his presence known to them yet. If you ask students and faculty who this strange apparition is, some will say he's just a legend, or some will say he is the result of a student seance that went wrong. But the real reason Walter haunts the Bradley County High School's theater is much more simple than that. When the high school was being built, Walter was a construction worker who was laying a cinder block one day and tripped and fell from a scaffold. The fall killed him. As he left this earthly world, he never crossed over. In the field of paranormal investigating, it is not uncommon to have spirits realize that they haven't passed away. Or in some cases, the person who has passed away is afraid to go into the light because they may have regrets or they feel like they were a horrible person while they were alive. Perhaps Walter didn't realize he hadn't survived the accident. Other students and faculty claim seeing a shadowy figure in the corner of their eye. Some have claimed hearing footsteps on the stage while no one is moving. And in 2011, someone finally captured a photo of Walter on stage during the Bradley County Film Festival. Maybe one day Walter will realize he's dead and cross over. Or maybe one day he'll realize he is no longer bound to the sins and regret of this world that keeps some people from passing on. In the meantime, Walter will continue to scare students and surprise faculty. And in the book, there is a photo that was provided to me by Gwen Schroyer, who is a film professor or film teacher at Bradley Central High School, or Bradley County High School. So, I mean, I recommend buying my book, and I think we'll read one more. Let me see which one. You know what? We'll read one that a lot of people in Cleveland know about. This one, I don't think you would know the story unless if if you hadn't lived in Cleveland that long. But if you know what the block party is, then you probably know this story. And that is the story of the Witch of Bradley County, or aka Tall Betsy. During the Halloween season, Cleveland is quite a festive city. Since the 1980s, the city has thrown a famous event of true Americana called the Block Party. At this event, people dress up as ghouls and their favorite horror villains, and they trick or treat until they're practically dragging their candy bag. During the Block Party, one ghoul is sat at the table of honor, and they call her Tall Betsy, or the Woman in Black. The tale of Tall Betsy is said to have started in 1928 when Dr. George Schultz was making his way home one October night. As he walked along the brick-laden streets, he came across a tall woman. George Schultz stood 6'2", and this woman he spotted must have stood 1.5 feet taller than him. This woman smiled at him and glided into the night, never to be seen again by him. Not long after that, sightings of the mysterious woman in black would continue. People didn't know what to think of this tall woman in dark robes. Back then, Cleveland was a superstitious city, and they warned their kids not to go out at night, or the woman in black would get them. Most people have said this woman was a teacher at Arnold Elementary School, or Flora Shields, who suffered from gigantism. Either way, the local lore states that if a child isn't home on Halloween night, Tall Betsy will take them back to her crypt at Fort Hill Cemetery and devour the child. Then she will dump the remains into a well that no longer sits on Arnold Elementary property. If you go up to the Shields Mausoleum in the daytime, there is an iron bar that is welded to the door. Perhaps Fort Hill Cemetery is preventing grave robbing or the homeless from squatting in someone's tomb. Or maybe the door is welded shut to keep something from getting out. And anyway, guys, that's just a few of the stories that you have to look forward to in my book. I've spent about 2 years doing my research, and I mean, if you've kept up with it long enough, you will know that originally I started, well, this book was supposed to go in tandem with the ghost tour that I would have done in downtown Cleveland, but I did not realize how unsafe downtown Cleveland is at night or in the late evening. Oh no, maybe we can maybe the city can fix that down the road. But anyway, guys, that's it. September 1st, Ghosts and Mysteries of Bradley County, Tennessee comes to the public eye. Anyway, guys, remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Always means a lot. Goes to show that you all care. They all want to see more awesome videos. So without further ado, you guys, this preview is over.